Hi folks, and welcome to the Meaningful Money Podcast. This is session number 331. This is the podcast dedicated to helping you put your finances in order. My name is Pete Matthew, and I'm going to share with you everything you need to know and everything you need to do to secure your financial future. I'm here to help you make sense of money. Here we are again. Great to have you with me. Thank you for joining me. Now, I get loads of requests from people wanting to come on the show. You know, I spend a lot of time and energy building an audience. Thank you. That's you. And loads of people want to get in front of you, and I'm really picky about who gets to speak to you. But today's guest actually asked me the opposite. She asked if she could use my resources for her live events. So I emailed back and just asked her if I could find out a little bit more about what she was up to. And I was so impressed by her passion and her mission, I invited her onto the show. So today I'm chatting with Tara Gillespie of Best Intentions. So stay tuned for that. After I've chatted with Tara, I'll read a review that's been left fairly recently, talk about what we're going to be talking about next time. But before any of that, you know the drill by now. This podcast is brought to you with the continued help of my friends at 7 Investment Management. They've been sponsoring me here since 2011, and I really could not have built this to what it is without their help. So please do check out what they're up to. They're at 7im.co.uk. That's the number 7im.co.uk. Also, don't forget the Meaningful Money branded investment website, the self-investment website that they've built to help people invest. All right, people just like you. So meaningfulmoney.tv/podcast invest. All the info that you need about that website is there. meaningfulmoney.tv/podcast invest. Right, now, Tara Gillespie, she's doing great work engaging millennials primarily with their finances through live events. That's what she does most of. And I'm always interested in anything really that is seeking to improve financial literacy. It's obviously a passion of mine. But in improving literacy, we can also improve financial well-being, which is such an important point. So Tara's doing great work with that, and I hope you enjoy my conversation with her. Remember, all the links and stuff, they're at the show notes. It's the only link you need to remember, meaningfulmoney.tv/session331. meaningfulmoney.tv/session331 is my conversation with Tara Gillespie. Well, what a pleasure to welcome Tara Gillespie, who is founder of Best Intentions, which is here to talk to us all about. But Tara, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hi, Pete. Yeah, really well, thank you. And thank you so much for having me on. It's a real honour and pleasure. I've been following your podcast for a little while now, and I've been raving about it to anyone who'll listen. So it's a real pleasure to be on.
Very cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Just give us a little bit of backstory. Well, first of all, where are you speaking to us from?
I am speaking to you from my house. I live in Angel in London.
Oh, okay, well, London town, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So, give us just a little bit of background, if you would, please. So, who are you? What it is that you do, and how you've really got to this point?
Yeah, sure. So, well, as you said, I founded Best Intentions, and my dream is really to get money on the well-being agenda, and to help people on their journey towards being wealthy, healthy, and happy, as I think those are the key ingredients for well-being. Mm-hmm. Really, that's been through creating a community, events, meetups, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's in its embryonic stages at the moment, so I'm hoping to grow it from there. But in terms of context and kind of how I got there, my day job is I'm an investment consultant. I've been advising some of the big institutions in the UK and around the world, pension schemes, wealth managers, that sort of thing, mm-hmm. On their long-term investment objectives. And as sort of in doing that, we're really thinking about the end member, the end saver, the person who's really going to be benefiting from the investment solutions, and creating investments that are fit for them. But what I realized was a lot of and not entirely, but a lot of the end beneficiaries were these sort of baby boomer generations, mm-hmm. and there's not a huge amount out there for millennials, and that kind of got me thinking, and sort of thought, well, maybe I can make a difference there.
It's much needed, I think, as well. I mean, as you probably know, I did a sort of season called Millennial Finance just to try and do my little bit really to address what I think is a lot of the injustices, or a lot of the grief that millennials get undeservedly, I think, and also, to my mind, to try and provide ways of meeting the challenges, because I think there are some unique challenges as well as some unique opportunities faced by the millennial generation. I had amazing feedback for that, and really enjoyed doing it. Actually, it really stretched me in many ways. So you want to reach millennials wealthy, banging my microphone, wealthy, healthy, and happy, you said. So there's definitely a well-being thing going on here. Is that your core motivation that you want to achieve for people?
Yeah, exactly. So it's actually it was that kind of well-being message that really got me thinking. So you kind of get from the industry, and I'm sure you see this all the time, Pete, it's kind of tarring the millennials with their feckless spenders who just a YOLO attitude. All they want to do is buy expensive cocktails, drink posh coffee, and eat avocado on toast.
Yeah, there it is.
Which is, I mean, to be fair, like that, there is a bit of that. But what I thought was really interesting is if you've got these people who have such a short-termist attitude and this YOLO culture, why are they so interested in well-being? Why are they putting so much time, effort, and money actually into physical, mental, and even environmental well-being now? And it just didn't quite marry up. So they're thinking about, I want to live for a long time and I want to be healthy and have a long life. I want to make sure that the planet that I live on is going to be around for a long time, even, after I'm gone. But I'm not thinking about the money side of it. And I just thought that's got to change. We've got to help people connect the dots between physical, personal well-being, environmental well-being, but then also financial well-being.
Why is it that those dots are not being connected, do you think? Because I mean, obviously for me and for many of us, and those of us who are involved in this space, it's an obvious connection. We can easily make the link between financial well-being and sort of emotional, psychological well-being. But why do you think it's not as on the radar as we think it might be for this generation?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, as soon as you make the connection, it's obvious. But I think there are definitely a few things going on. So one is that you don't know what you don't know. True. And people form habits around money from a really young age. I think 7 years old, some say. And so if you've been in an environment where people haven't been talking about money, even if your parents are diligent savers, if they aren't talking to you about it, they're not educating you in that, because money's a taboo and people don't like talking about it, you haven't formed those habits at that young age. And actually, sometimes I liken it to the analogy of weight loss, because if you haven't formed good, healthy diet habits, then, and you've put on a lot of weight, you can't just expect to overnight go, oh, I now know what healthy diet is, therefore I'm slim and healthy again. You have to put time, effort, and energy into getting yourself to a place where you have that healthy well-being. But the other thing is the social influence, and actually that's so sticking with the weight loss analogy. If you can see if someone's overweight, right? You can look at them in the street, and if you had nice friends and family, they would probably say, help you on the knee, and can I help you get to a place where you're kind of healthier and you've got well-being. But also there's social influences. It's a social norm to try and take yourself on that journey. But that's definitely not the case with finance and all of the social influences. And by the way, social influences are so important to defining our behavior. They're pushing people in the opposite direction. They're pushing people to buy things that they probably don't need. They're pushing people to aspire to do things that they probably don't need. And all of that probably costs money. And I think that's a really tough combination where you don't have the tools available to you and you're being pushed into a direction that isn't towards financial well-being and security.
That's a really important point, actually. And I hadn't quite made that connection before, because there is a lot of pressure, and I see it. I've got a 19-year-old and a 16-year-old daughter. So the 19-year-old obviously I think she just about qualifies as a millennial by a week, because she was born in the back end of December 1999. Depends on your definition, I suppose. But I can see her Instagram feed, and I know the sort of the people that she follows and stuff, and you can see that pressure happening actually to look a certain way, to act a certain way, and it's logical, I guess, that there's a kind of financial pressure as well to buy the right things, to wear the right things, and as it goes on, it only gets bigger, doesn't it? It's drive the right car, take the right holidays, and all that sort of stuff. So I perhaps have not sort of made that link before. I remember when Damien Fay of Money to the Masses and I had a meetup last November, and I had a semi-inebriated conversation towards the end of the evening. And, of course, everybody that was there listens to the show, either mine or Damien's or both in most cases. And we were just saying, how do we reach those that don't know they need to be reached? And I haven't yet found the answer to that. But obviously what you're doing with Best Intentions is to try and address some of that. So, first of all, what is it that you've sort of started doing? What is Best Intentions right now?
Well, and actually, so think about how you can reach those people. It's easy to say that those two things that I mentioned, that don't know what you don't know, and social influence, are negatives. But I think you can. What I find really exciting, and one of the things that I want to do with Best Intentions is flip that second challenge around to help the first challenge. So take that hugely powerful social influence and make it a positive. It doesn't have to be a negative. Social influence can be for the good, and use that as a tool to educate people and help them realize the things that they don't know. So in terms of how you reach them, I think one point is community. So creating those social influences by introducing people to each other and saying, right, what's your story? So one of the things that I find absolutely amazing to watch when we have these meetups is to watch people share their own stories and share their own learnings, and it's so inspirational, because people don't want to just be preached to by someone who works in the financial services industry. Exactly. And even though I might look and sound a bit more like them, I'm still ultimately in the industry. But people will be sitting there going, oh yeah, I know, have you tried this app, or have you tried this website, or actually I've got this card that really helps me to manage my saving, or helps me spending actually pots. That was something that people came up with last time, with those sort of saving pots. So making sure that you've created little individual pots with different names on them. So one of the girls was saying she's got a holiday pot, and someone said, oh, that's a really good idea. Yeah, I just love seeing that kind of people bouncing off each other, and they go away feeling so much more inspired and also accountable. If you said you're going to do something, you're probably more likely to do it.
So what's the format then? Yeah, just a meeting of minds. Is there a speaker or what?
Yeah, so far it's been groups of 10, and I've been sort of facilitating, but they've been super interactive. So we've had a topic. The last one was a financial training plan. So thinking about, you wouldn't try and do a marathon without having a plan. You wouldn't try and do any big goal without having a plan. Let's start with the big goal. And actually, similarly to you, Pete, I don't think you necessarily need to have a hard and fast goal. I think intentions are important. And so a lot of people said, it's not a house that I want to buy, it's just I want to have a feeling of security. And that's really important to mine. And so we defined that, and then we worked back and said, well, what are the tools that we have available today in order to get there? And people are writing stuff down, sharing stories, and so on. So that's how it's been so far. As I said, really small groups of people meeting about once a month with a particular topic in mind. Going forward from here, they're going to be themed events. So money, and so this whole kind of well-being concept, but money and food, or money and self-care, or money and environmental sustainability. And we're going to have speakers, we're going to have quizzes, we're going to have challenges. It's going to be, super interactive. We also have yoga beforehand, which is quite good fun. So get people into the right mindset before they come into the room.
One of the questions I get asked a lot is about balance, because there are conflicting things, vying for our attention, for our share of resources or whatever. How can we help people find that? Because sometimes these things are conflicting, sometimes they're complementary. So money can be used in such a way which aids general well-being as easily as it can be used in such a way that it works against that. If somebody says to you, like, how do I just balance like living for today and saving for one day? What would you say to that? What sort of things are you giving people to answer that question?
Yeah, so that's something we talked about last time actually, which is it's it's about putting some identity on the things that you want in future, even if that is a feeling, even if it is, I just want to have freedom to do what I want when I want. How much money are you putting aside today for you to have that in future? But on the point about balance, I mean, it doesn't have to be that finance is a separate thing, and that's one of the important messages that I want people to take away, is that actually you can integrate good financial decision making into all the things that you already do and love. So if you're already thinking about and spending a lot of brain power thinking about healthy eating, how can you make sure that you're making good financial choices as part of that? I know it sounds like a really small step, but here in London, you can spend £10 on a salad for lunch. I mean, that's not a good financial choice, but you don't have to spend that much money to eat healthily. No. There's all sorts of things you can do around beauty and skincare and self-care steps that are more affordable than maybe the shops will want to push on you. And I think helping people come up with practical solutions that they can actually do alongside the things that they're already doing and enjoy doing. So you can't say to someone, oh, well, you need to save more money, therefore stop having fun, or you need to save more money, therefore stop looking after your skin or buying makeup or hair products, whatever. You've got to be able to help people do both.
Yeah, that in itself is a fine balance to strike. It used to be very trendy to talk about the latte factor. I mean, I believe that phrase was coined by David Bach, who wrote a book called The Automatic Millionaire, which I recommend all the time. Yeah. But it's just a bit sort of, well, actually, I really like coffee. And if I want to spend my money on that, then that's my prerogative sort of thing. I think as long as you're being overly prescriptive about that stuff, it can be unhelpful. And I'd rather help people learn to become intentional, so that if they choose to spend money on a latte, then that's fine, as long as they understand the implications of it. So there's not a sort of guilt trip thing. I do sometimes think that there's an awful lot laid on millennials for you just need to make better decisions. What's the matter with you? Yeah. Do you agree?
Well, did you see the Elvest out in the US? They did an article recently which was called "Just Drink the Effing Latte," because they were just so sick of. Partly, it's not about that. It really isn't about that, but also how patronizing that is. Yes, because exactly. Their point was that's very much so focused at women, because it was sort of like this, silly woman on her way to work buying a girly latte drink, and lazy, their point was stop being patronizing and stop focusing on the wrong thing, because it's bigger than that. And I completely agree. People should be allowed to spend money on what they want to spend money on. And they shouldn't be saving for the sake of saving. They should be saving because they want that money to help them do something that they want to do in future.
Yeah, it just sort of strikes me as sort of lazy commentary, that whole sort of thing. And it's like, oh, come on, we need to just work a bit harder to actually understand. Because you tend to find this sort of gammon generation, which I'm not sure if I'm a part of or not. So a little bit hesitant. I'm 44. Where do I fall? Somewhere desperately in the middle. I think, you tend to sort of hear that generation say, well, it's those challenges that you face is, we had double-digit inflation rates and double-digit interest rates and all that sort of stuff. And I just think this stuff kind of comes around. I think each generation has its own opportunities and its own challenges, and it's about understanding what they are. What would you say the key challenges are? Just interested in it from your point of view. I've got my own views on it, but people have heard that. I'm interested in your views of what the key challenges are for the millennial generation. I know you've touched on them a little bit already, but just maybe expand a bit.
Well, I'm kind of at risk of sounding a bit like a moaning millennial if I...
You're on safe ground here, right?
But I mean, it's all the stuff we know, but salary increase is not keeping up with inflation, although it's lower salary rises aren't keeping up with it. High house prices, meaning that people can't invest their money and grow it in a way that say their parents were able to. Couple that with high and rising rent. But the one thing that's a bit of a bugbear of mine, given the day job where I'm working with pension schemes, is the move from the sacred defined benefit final salary pension scheme into a almost, not quite, but almost do-it-yourself defined contribution scheme. And so you have the things that I was talking about earlier, that lack of knowledge and lack of sort of forming habits from a young age, and the social influences pushing you in the wrong direction, plus the fact that you've got economic forces working against you, and your employer and the government aren't going to look after you in later life in the way that they would have done for previous generations. And that probably ties into a little bit why you haven't had money as a sort of commonplace in the education system or in home life, because parents didn't have to think about it in the same way, because they could rely on the fact that they have a DB pension when they retire. I mean, hopefully the state of pension scheme funding levels in some cases maybe not quite
whole different point of view. Yeah, I imagine that's true. Yeah, and again, not something necessarily I thought through, that just the relative ease of government and company provision not making it necessary to be a big subject very often in our parents' homes. There's some opportunities though which have not been available, I think, to previous generations. Would you agree?
Yeah, that definitely. And look, there's been a huge amount of progress, right? You've got all of the online tools. So although financial advice might be expensive, if you engage in it, there are options to get invested at, all you need is £1 type of thing. So the online world has definitely created some opportunities. But also, I mean, there's more and different ways to earn money. And again, at one of the meetups we were talking about, well, we spend a lot of time focused on how you can spend less and save more. But what about how you can find different sources of income and increase your income? And one of the girls in the circle said, "Oh, actually, yeah, I've been doing these designs of greetings cards." So she's a fantastic artist, and she's whenever she has a friend who has a birthday, she'll draw this card out, and she's like, "I was thinking about maybe turning that into a business." And we were like, "Yes, definitely,
we'll buy it.
Time for Christmas, and put it on Instagram, and you can monetize that, absolutely." And it's her hobby and her passion, drawing, so why not? And I think that is a real opportunity to our generation that the previous generations didn't have.
I agree. I'm going to ask you to sort of help me with a little bit of market research here, Tara, okay? Because I am obviously a financial planner by day. The office that I'm talking to you in is my office here at Jackson's Wealth Management in Penzance. And we are working hard to put together a service for folks for whom the traditional advice process just isn't built. So the classic IFA client needs to have probably at least 50 grand in investable assets, probably twice or more than that, or a very high income with the expectation of a good savings level. Why? Well, simply because advisors traditionally are paid on percentage of assets under management. So if you haven't got any assets, then you're not worth anything to us traditionally. And of course, there's a huge danger of a whole generation being disenfranchised from advice. And so we're looking at that very closely. Now, I'd be interested to know what you think, and I'm aware I'm putting you on the spot here because I didn't prime you on this one, okay? Is what do you think the financial advice industry, the financial planning profession, should be or could be doing to serve millennials? I mean, don't worry about how fees and stuff work necessarily. We can perhaps come back to that. But what can we be doing to help folks who are not in our classic target market?
Yeah, it is an interesting question. It's definitely not one that you can solve easily, and I wouldn't want to pretend that I have the golden ticket on that, or the silver bullet, or whatever it's called.
Either.
But it reminded me of a conversation I was listening to on Radio 4 this morning I'm not one of Radio 4's most common listeners, but someone sent it to me. They thought I would be interested in it. And it was about how you engage women as financial advisors. And I think it has a lot of similarities with how you engage younger people. And so they were saying less focus on benchmark relative returns, and this particular asset manager has outperformed that manager by this amount, and let's look at the return versus volatility, all of that kind of stuff, and focus more on what you're trying to achieve, thinking about things that are actually tangible and things that they can relate to, things that they're already thinking about. So we're talking earlier about the intentions, but they will be thinking about increasingly so environmental factors, increasingly so their own personal well-being, and how you can use that as a way of saying, right, well, let's tailor a financial plan to helping you achieve the things that are already important to you. And actually, just thought of it. So the environmental point, I have been trialing a program with Friends of the Earth charity, and so they want to use responsible investing as a way of engaging people in personal finance and investing full stop, because people already, you've seen Extinction Rebellion, people are already engaging in that massively. Why not say, well, look at the impact you could have by, say, investing your pension assets slightly differently on the environment and also on your own personal financial situation. So I think both of those things would definitely help.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm extremely encouraged. I think I said this in the season, that the things which are important to younger folks, I think, bode extremely well for the planet, for the species, and for the economy. Because if we can, over the course of a generation, unite investment approach, savings habits, financial well-being with environmental well-being, psychological well-being, I just think that's going to mean lots of good things. You can see that in 50 to 100 years of time, the economy will look entirely different. The species will look different, which I think is extremely exciting. So I'd love to, we're working hard to try and build something. Even we're thinking, is there a way that we can deliver some kind of ongoing coaching, accountability type arrangement for 25 quid a month? So if somebody's got 100 quid a month that they can save, as long as they're out of debt and things like that, and they're perhaps dealt with those very bad debt, that is, right? I understand it's not easy to be completely debt free, but is there something that actually to have that kind of input regularly, that might be something that might be attractive? So we're still working on it. So
I think that's smart, and doing it in a way that it's, as you say, subscription based arrangement rather than proportion of assets. I think there's a bit of cynicism around that kind of charging model. Longer term, as their assets grow in value.
Exactly. And there's so much that can be delivered online through apps and portals and stuff like that, and of course through social. So you're doing some of the marketing for Best Intentions on Instagram primarily.
Mostly through Instagram. I'm trialing a bit of YouTube, but I think mostly focusing on Instagram. I tried Facebook as well. Feedback was that actually most of the people in the sort of target market that I'm aiming for are not even looking at Facebook anymore. I thought that's an interesting transition, but mostly Instagram.
That makes sense. So what's next? You mentioned a little bit. What's next for Best Intentions going forward?
Yeah, so as I said, this year, moving into the money and themes, money and food, money and self-care, money and environmental responsibility. And those events are going to be monthly. They'll be in London. We're going to have guest speakers for specialists in each of those areas, because I'm learning about some of those things as well. And as I said, those will be monthly till the end of the year. I'd really love to see what the feedback is from the people who come to those events about what they want next. And so I'm kind of holding off planning too much for 2020 just yet. But the thing that I'm really excited about is I'm collaborating with Virgin Active, the gym, on an event in September. And they're going to put on a spin class. There's going to be smoothies. I'm going to be running a money circuit. So we're going to have the different sort of stalls and stands where there's going to be different money training sessions, and got some really cool guests coming as well. So that's what I'm getting very excited about now.
Yeah, great. Well, look, all power to you. I get asked a lot by people to come on this show, which is I find very humbling, and obviously built an audience, and most people don't make it through. But when you emailed me, it was clear that the passion really comes across, and there's, you just brain dumped on this email that you sent to me, and it was just like, yes, that's great. So, seriously, all power to you. I'm excited for what's possible for you, and obviously, if I can help in any way, just yell, even though I'm emphatically not a millennial, but it's if I can help, then I'd love to. But Tara, where can folks find out more about what you're doing?
Well, on the website, which I'll give to you, Pete, and then Instagram at all our best intentions. Those are the main places, and you can email me at bestintentionsHQ@gmail.com. I'd absolutely love to have as many people as possible come to the Money and series, the meetups in London. They're only in London at the moment, but hopefully if I get enough traction, they'll be around the rest of the country as well. Yeah,
2020 and beyond. I'll make sure there's links to all that in the show notes, Tara. Obviously, all power to you. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me, Pete. It was great.
Okay, hope you enjoyed my chat with Tara. She's doing great work. If you're in or around London, or even if you're not, you can always fly in. Definitely check out her Money and series of events that Best Intentions are putting on. Remember, all the links in the show notes, meaningfulmoney.tv/session331. Also, why not hit up Tara on Instagram to say that you heard her here on Meaningful Money. And thanks again, Tara, for coming on. Okay, BP23 has left me a review headlined Bite Size Finance. I stumbled on Pete's podcast when searching for something constructive / mentally stimulating to listen to on my drive home from work. This podcast has prompted me to reassess my finances and look at it in a completely different way. I didn't quite understand finance jargon, and so always neglected what I had to do. But after listening to the Meaningful Money podcast, I'm more motivated, a lot more motivated, and to understand finance and take responsibility. Thank you for your podcast, Pete. I really do enjoy listening to them. P.S. Always like a review with a P.S. I don't usually bother writing reviews, brackets, this is my first. But I feel this has helped me so much, and if someone is reading through reviews to see what podcast they should bother listening to, this for sure should be one of them. BP23, thank you so much for leaving that review and for taking the time when it's something that you wouldn't normally do. I very, very much appreciate it. I hope you know that. And if you're listening and this is of any value to you, definitely leave me a review wherever you can. If you're of an Apple persuasion, meaningfulmoney.tv/iTunes, but whatever service or app you're listening to me on, if you can leave me a review, really massively helps me out if you do. Thank you in advance. Okay, next week I'm going to be chatting with my friend Catherine Morgan about her podcast called In Her Financial Shoes, her work as both a financial planner and a coach, and how she's transitioning more towards the coaching and really what that means, and how she's reaching women to educate and inspire them to take control of their finances. Catherine really is going places, as you'll discover next week. So she's really one to watch. So I hope you enjoy that. And that's it, folks, for this session of the Meaningful Money podcast. Hope it was helpful. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again to Tara. Any questions or comments for Tara, you can leave them at the show notes. There's a comment section there, meaningfulmoney.tv/session331. All the resources and links and stuff are there as well. Hope you enjoyed it, folks. Thank you so much for listening. I'll talk to you next week.